Hi, Linda. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Can't remember his name. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm at Linda's. My name is Sue. Can I ask who you are?
Jim Marsh. I,
I
I,
met you, Jim. Yes.
we usually say hello at the first service.
Yes, I thought I saw you. I thought I know who this is. So are you on the board now?
I am not yet until June, apparently.
Okay, you'll be filling in for some vacant position that just came up, huh?
Yes, the person that's retiring 1 year early. So
Oh, I know who it is. Justin. Justin, yeah.
that sounds right.
Okay. Well, good. Thanks for stepping forward.
Yeah. Yeah. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jim.
Well,
Good.
hi. Hi, Cindy.
Hi,
I'm doing
Cindy.
great. I'm doing great.
Good.
I just happened to be here at Rockwood. They had an Earth Day event, and so Jean and I came over, and so we said we need to go over to Linda Green's and listen to the board. Hi, Luba.
Hi, Luba. You're muted.
Sorry.
Oh, you
Hi,
remember
hi, everybody.
Jim Marsh? He goes to first service, and he's going to be taking Justin's place
Oh, hi, Luba.
that year.
Hello.
This is Jean. Would you please give me a phone call right now?
To you?
Yes.
Uh, okay, I don't remember your phone number. I have to grab my cell phone because I'm far from it. Just a
Okay.
moment.
Hi,
What are you
Nancy.
eating, Jean?
Almonds.
Hi,
Oh, yes, she always has those
welcome,
goodies.
Jim. It's good to have you here.
Hi, Nancy. Thank you. I'm curious to see how all this works.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
And Cindy, I'm not sure that we've met before.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm a second service in-person person.
Okay. Me
And
too.
I
I
I
go
think
to
you
first service
mostly
though.
I think you do mostly online or in person.
In person first service.
I should change it up every now and then and just stop by the first service and see how that service goes.
Yeah. And I should go to the second service.
Jim is one of our nominees for the Board of Trustees to fill in for Justin for his final term. And maybe he'll agree for another one.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, thank you. I want to invite you to go to the symphony with me on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It's Verde.
It's okay, Sunday afternoon, 26,
Yes,
after the second service.
yes.
I am writing it on my calendar.
Hey, so if you wanted to, you could ride to church with somebody else and then we'll go to lunch and then go to the symphony.
Okay,
Okay, great.
great.
See you at the meeting.
See ya.
Hi, ladies.
You're welcome. Bye.
Hi, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
Hi, everybody. Oh, Jim. Hey,
Good to see you, Doug.
good to see you. Oh, hello.
Oh, dog, my goodness. From Europe.
Hi, Luba.
From Europe with love.
Where are you at, Doug?
I'm in Toulouse, France.
Very nice.
Holy moly.
Let's
You-
see, that would put you at about midnight?
One.
One.
Whoa.
Oh, what
Oh
a
boy.
trooper. You get a gold star.
Not midnight, but middle of the night.
Yeah.
Sound on
Oh.
now, Jane.
Yeah. Good to
You
see
should
you
have-
all.
You should have a glass of good French wine unless you had one earlier.
I had a couple earlier.
So for those of you that came on a little bit later, Jim is here visiting. He's going to be filling in for Justin's final year.
Great. Thanks, Jim.
I'm sorry it's not cold. Oh, that's okay.
Okay, folks, it's 4 o'clock. Let's call it to order. Do we have any amendments to the agenda? Or can we can we approve it as written?
Let
I'd
me-
like to potentially add one thing.
Uh-huh.
If there's time for it, Laura Gusdorf has agreed to serve on the operations team. And that would
And-
require approval by Laura Gusdorf would require approval by the board.
Great.
That would be under new business, I think. Another item there.
Yeah.
Good. And I had one question. The nominating team, aren't they supposed to have nominations for the nomination team? Or is that going to be covered in a report, or what's going on with that?
You're saying new members for the nominating team?
Yeah, they have to be elected at an annual meeting. And so I just
Correct.
wondered whether that's in the process.
Let me think. I believe that let's see.
Yes.
I know something about that, if I could say.
Please.
Just because I had spoken to Betty recently.
Mhm.
They do she told me they have everything covered. She's the nominating team. And that I believe Lisa Conger's going off and Kylan is coming on, Kylan Glubeck.
No. So Kylan is already a member of the nominate. Well, let's
Oh,
approve the agenda, and why don't we just put that in somewhere, Cindy?
Okay, nominating team. All right, that sounds good.
Okay,
And if there are no objections, we'll go ahead and set our next executive committee meeting on May 20th and the next board meeting on the 27th, both Wednesdays, both 4 p.m.
how about item 3?
Oh, amend and approve the minutes. Yes, I'm just going through here a little too fast. Any amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll take that as approval. And then do we have a volunteer for our floating member of the executive team?
I can do it.
Thank you, Luba. Okay, let's see. Luba, you submitted your report. For the ops team, would you go over that with us?
Oh, sure. There's nothing to report because Rebecca had to call off this meeting in April the 14th due to her sickness. But she forwarded this agenda according to which she planned to talk about the fundraising that at that point the number on her agenda was like 25,920. Then she planned to talk a little about the updated emergency procedure guidebook that is available for reading and studying. And also mentioned the guide was emailed to ushers and lay leaders, and that a new fridge order and the parking lot repair would be as planned. That is done in July. So that's it. So I have nothing to report beyond that. And the other thing that I'm in charge of, they approved February Board of Trustee meeting minutes, right? Approved minutes. Gosh. So we forwarded to Rebecca and she got it.
Great, great. Thank you. Dick, tell us about the treasury.
You want that now?
Yes, please.
Oh, well, okay. Well, Rebecca has been keeping track of the pledge drive, and we learned at our first budget summit that if things did not look good with the pledge drive, they would probably schedule a second budget summit to deal with that. But she says things are looking good. And she says right as of this afternoon, there were 159 pledging units and 82 pledges, 77 still not pledged, with a total of $212,000 and about 2012 and $609. So about $210,000 roughly. And so she thinks we have a good chance of getting eventually when everything comes in up to maybe 300,000. Now I'm not an expert on myself because that takes someone who's had quite a bit of experience here to know the timelines of these pledge drives and how it works out. But from her experience, she says this looks good at this point. I think the original goal was like 270,000 or something for the pledge drive. So we're within striking range of that, but she thinks we can maybe make 300,000.
Nancy, did you want to chime in on that?
What I have is exactly what Dick said. Our hopeful goal would be 300,000.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we still have a shot at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, maybe a fairly good shot. So that's what she was saying. But even if, I don't know, but again, I guess that means we have over 2/3 of the pledges in already. Of course, the bigger pledges tend to come in early and smaller pledges later. But I think this church has a history of, beating the bushes to the last pledging unit at the end.
I do know Rebecca said that come Monday, for those folks that have not pledged, there'll be a contact made with them to see if they are pledging. Sometimes what she said to me is sometimes people assume that we know that they are pledging the same thing again this year.
Right.
So Cindy and I are doing the last hurrah this Sunday at both services for the pledge drive and getting the pledges in. So maybe that will help a bit.
Yeah, and some of those traditional pledges that may be more substantial than some of the like brand new people to the congregation. Yeah.
Yep.
But I think she said in an earlier message that there were 152 pledging units last year, and now we're up to 159. So that's a significant increase over 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So, 7 pledging units is not bad out of 150, 160.
I want to say welcome to Kathy, and Dan, saw you pop in and put a hand up.
I have just tell Dick that I've been traveling and he can put me down so far for what I had last year. So there's one added.
I'll email Rebecca for you.
Yeah, Rebecca needs to get that, not me, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll
Nancy
send it
doesn't-
to her. Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
So just a quick introduction, Kathy Heaps is one of our upcoming board members as well.
Hi, Kathy.
Hello, everyone. I think I know most of you. Hey, Luba. So I'm excited about the possibility of being on the board. And I also just thought my pledge, I didn't fill out a form because I just thought it was recurring. So anyways, I'll make sure and take care of that.
Mm,
Kathy.
Yeah,
And
so
You
when I
you can just
mentioned,
call the office and say it's recurring.
Right.
Okay,
Make it easy on
perfect.
yourself. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And when I said beating the bushes, that's a lot of it is just talking to people and are you going to renew or not or whatever. You know.
Nancy, I think we need to make a point of that on Sunday.
Will
Yeah.
do. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
In fact, offer to record somebody's name and forward it to Rebecca right there on the spot on Sunday. If
Yeah.
somebody's in the audience and says, "Oh yeah, I need to do that." Just take their name and you can do. You know.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Okay, we do have a spot here on our agenda for a nominating team report. And I think that would be the place to talk about the nominating team itself.
So I received an email from Betty because I couldn't remember who the third person was. So Betty has agreed to do another 3-year term. Kai Lynn has 1 more year left on her term, and Candace Schmidt has also agreed to serve a 3-year term.
Great.
so does anybody officially need to be reelected? Because if, just saying they're going to serve another term, that technically, if their term is expiring, we need to elect them at the annual meeting.
Yes, Betty and Candace.
Okay, so that would be whoever's putting together the agenda needs to have a spot for that. In the past, the nominating team actually makes the motion to for the 4 vacant trustee positions, and they would make their own motion for themselves. And then the endowment team would do its thing. That's the way it's worked in the past.
Mhm.
Okay. Just making a note here. Okay. Unfinished business. Let's talk about strategic plan.
Well, I
Nancy?
think we're down to our almost ready to go. Probably we'll have it finished in the next 2 weeks. Send it off to Rebecca to see if there's any issues with the way we've written the survey. Right now, it's mostly just check a box, kind of thing. So that she can then get it into Breeze or Survey Monkey.
Okay. That sounds good. Generosity campaign, do we have any more to add to that, or did we cover it all in our treasurer's report?
Covered it with Dick's report.
Okay. New business. We'll start out with the rescission of the proposed bylaw amendment. Tom, would you like to step in for that?
Okay, we just for history and particularly those who may not have been here, in the last meeting, after a second reading, we proposed a bylaw to really establish a position of an appointed ex officio non-voting trustee who would then be treasurer. After communications between Cindy and Nancy and me and Mary Giannini, that wouldn't exactly comply with state law either. And right now we're a little bit out of whack with the state law because the state law changed a bit from the last time that we adopted the bylaws in 22 or 23. So it's the best course of action was to rescind that previous motion. And I have 2 motions that I have sent out to everybody, including to Marilyn Johnson, our recording secretary. So with that background, I move, and I'm reading from what I sent out, I move that the Board of Trustees rescind the motion to schedule a bylaw amendment at the June 26th UUCS annual meeting concerning the proposed amendment to create a board-appointed ex officio non-voting trustee position for the purpose of serving as a trustee treasurer for UUCS.
Okay.
That date, Tom, is not correct.
What's that?
The date of the annual meeting is not correct.
Well, I meant the year 2026. I didn't give a date. I just said June. It's
Oh,
it's June 14th. And we could add that in if we want to clarify June 14th, 2026.
Okay.
Need a second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And so that was, I'll say Nancy, your voice was loudest.
Yes.
As
All
always.
all in favor of the motion to rescind the proposed bylaw?
Well, is there any discussion? Just to
Oh,
make sure.
sorry, discussion. Maybe I'll add in for those that aren't familiar. Mary Giannini is an attorney and she has been able to advise us on the legal aspects of that and help us be sure that we're in alignment with state laws. No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Tom, do I vote?
Yes, you're entitled to vote and to make motion.
Okay. All right. 6 in favor, none opposed.
And then there was a follow-up motion for the board to consider. We don't have to adopt it, but let me read it, and then if it's seconded, then we can either discuss or just go to a vote or change it. I move that the Board of Trustees establish an ex officio non-voting trustee position for the purpose of serving as trustee/treasurer and appoint Daryl Vander Linden to that position effective July 1, 2026. And further, that the board encourage the 2026-2027 board to consider proposing a bylaw amendment to reflect this concept in compliance with Washington State nonprofit corporation law.
All right. Discussion. Or I guess we need to second first. So there's the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay,
Yeah, I
seconded
guess-
by Luba.
Yeah, I guess I just have some, why can't this board do what the next board is proposing? This encourages the next board to do a bylaw amendment. Why can't this board do that?
Well, the board can't amend the bylaws. Only the congregation can amend the bylaws. Actually, what we're doing in that last motion is a little out of compliance with our own bylaws and with the state law, but it seems like the reasonable, practical thing to do. And then the board can make a motion for the following 2027 annual meeting to kind of bring things in compliance with the state law and how we want to do things.
Yeah, I mean, it might, it'd be good to clarify that. It sounded here as if this next board could adopt it itself, but it actually would be proposing adoption to the following annual meeting.
Yeah,
That was, I was a little unclear on that.
I think I'm hesitating only because we want to be sure that we're matching so that we don't write another bylaw if we don't need it. So we just need time to make sure that our bylaw as written is in compliance with the state from my perspective.
well, that's why I used the language for the board to consider.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so when you look at it in 2026, 27, it could be that you'll decide it's okay and that we are okay. And if we're not, it's a pretty minor tweak.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And there is another unanimous decision. Okay. The E-Fund amendment, Tom.
Yeah, the board discussed this at this last meeting. It's, the bylaw, which I have in front of me, which I could read, says that if 10 or more members propose a bylaw, that it goes onto the annual meeting agenda. And it does say that it has to be submitted 6 weeks prior to the meeting date, which obviously it is more than 6 weeks before the annual meeting. And it has to be submitted to the board accompanied by at least 10 supporting member signatures. And Cindy, I think I gave you information that you can verify there were 25 signatures or emails. And then it says the 6 weeks is in quotes, is for the purpose of the board or the board designated persons to examine the proposed amendment for continuity with existing governance documents and as needed, work with the persons proposing the amendment in an effort to maintain consistency and continuity. So the board, unless they want to amend the language because it's not consistent or not in continuity, would just make a motion as we did before on the other amendment to the bylaws to just say that it'll be before the congregation. And whether or not the board wants to just remain neutral, wants to state that it opposes it or state that it approves it, that would be up to the board. But the important thing is to just make a motion or take action to see that it's on the agenda for the annual meeting.
Further discussion, and I would say, please remember that this is, again, not the board's approval of the amendment. It is approving it being on the agenda for the general meeting, for the congregational meeting. Seeing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor?
And clarification, that's a vote to get it on the agenda and not in favor of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm seeing one. Put your hands back up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's a 5 yes. Opposed? And the motion carries. Memorial Garden Amendment. I didn't put a name on this because I wasn't sure if Jean would be here to present this or not. At Linda Green's house. There she is. There she is.
But by the way, I do, in a document I sent out, this would be for the Memorial Garden team, I do have a motion that proposes it to get it on the agenda, but we have to kind of deal with changing the format so it's consistent and then deciding if we're going to put it on the agenda, what article it would be. And I suggested that a subcommittee of Cindy, Nancy, and I decide to format it correctly and to decide where among the articles it would go. But with that background, that's what I suggested as the parliamentary advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you still wondering if I have my name on this amendment?
You do now.
All right, good. I do have a question. It seems to me if a group is presenting an amendment to go to the annual meeting, I'm just wondering why the board is voting on whether it goes to the annual meeting or not.
I could take a crack at that if you like Cindy or anybody else on the board.
Please go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead,
Okay, the president and the board are responsible for the agenda for the annual meeting. And in the past, every proposed bylaw amendment that makes it to the annual meeting is voted to go there, to be placed on the agenda by the board.
And
So
that's
that
in the bylaws?
it's standard procedure that has been customary, and I don't know if you can find it in the bylaws, but how else is it going to get there?
So it says some member-generated congregational meeting resolution. And then there's two little paragraphs. Must be submitted to the board at least 6 weeks prior to such meeting for the board to review for consistency and compliance with federal and state laws and UUCS articles of incorporation, UUCS bylaws, and the board policy governance policies and procedures manual.
So that says nothing about voting on whether it is considered at the annual meeting or not.
Well, it has to be approved by the board based on those items that Nancy just listed. So yes, the bylaws require the board to actually put them on the agenda.
Could we do that without a vote? I mean, could
Okay,
it just, as a submitted item, check for consistency as the bylaws require, and then it goes on?
I would think it still has to be a unanimous decision by the board.
Unanimous?
Well,
Unanimous?
If there's debate over whether or not, for example, it should be in alignment with those documents, then the board would not be able to put it on as is.
Okay, let's
Right.
say it is in alignment. Let's say it is in alignment. Then that's it. The board should not be voting then whether or not it goes on the agenda.
If the board is going to put it on its agenda they should vote on it.
Yeah.
That'd be my argument.
And is this just like the one we just voted on for the endowment?
Yeah,
Weren't we using that procedure there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
let's
just use
say
it for the
you pass-
endowment. The board's not supporting or necessarily against that item, but the procedure and interpretation of the current bylaws is that the board has to approve putting it on the agenda.
So Todd, we did vote on it, and the vote was not unanimous.
Well, it doesn't have to be unanimous, but I'm just saying that if there is disagreement, where is that discussion going to take place and for what purpose?
I don't think it's up to the board to agree or disagree with an amendment that's supposed to go to the congregation.
That's not what they're doing, Gene. They're not agreeing or disagreeing. They're looking
They're
at it in
deciding
terms.
whether or not it goes to the congregation.
Exactly, because if it is written in violation,
No, I'm
Of
saying
our-
it's not written in violation.
well, the board still has to look at it and determine that.
So, Gene,
course.
You're not a board member. The board members have to decide that.
yeah, this is in our policy governance manual, and it says that any member-generated resolutions need to come to the board 6 weeks prior to that meeting. We need to look at it and make sure it's in compliance with the other policies. And if it's not, it gets rewritten so that it is. It's not going to be on the agenda. We're simply saying, first of all, it needs to be reviewed. And we just got it, so we really haven't had time to review because we don't do board work via email. Make sense?
So far.
Yeah, they're not voting to disagree or they're not voting to keep it off because they disagree with it, Gene.
Right.
They're just voting to look to make sure that it doesn't conflict with something, so therefore it would not be viable to go before the congregation to begin with.
Okay, but that's not what was said. It was said that they're voting whether to put it on the agenda.
Yeah, right. Based upon the standards that it has to meet in order to go on the agenda.
Yeah, it's not.
Right? Let's say, for example, you propose something and unknowingly propose something that violates state law. It is the board's job to determine that before it goes before the congregation. Because we're not allowed to vote on things that would violate the state law.
Okay, and Nancy said then it would come back to me for some changes.
Exactly.
Then it comes to the board. And then you said the board then votes whether it can go on the agenda
Right.
or not. And
Yes, that's right.
I don't think that's right.
No, it's not endorsement. It's just
Hmm?
approval. It just says that the board
Let it go.
has looked at it and they agree that it meets all these standards of consistency. It's not an endorsement or not.
And that is the procedure. That's the board's procedure.
That
Tom?
makes sense to me.
It is
Tom, are
almost
you-
like the board makes sure that the statement is, from the point of view of grammar and law, is correct.
Okay.
The only comment I would make, I think you misspoke accidentally, Nancy. You said it's in our policies document. It's not policies, it's in the bylaws.
No, I'm in the policies section. UU policy governance policies and procedures, item number 5.
Yeah. And I think it's in the bylaws too, at
Well,
least a
that's-
similar version. Yeah.
Yeah, the bylaws take precedent over the policies, but they virtually say the same.
And as you point out, the bylaws require us to make sure it's in alignment with both bylaws and policy documents. So that's what the board is doing. That's what our documents say the board is supposed to do.
I agree with that.
Okay,
Mhm.
let it go.
Okay, well, go ahead and discuss it and we'll see what happens.
But you were supposed to let us know, I think, what we were going to discuss, right? Okay.
Tom, do you have the suggested amendment right there?
Well, yeah, I have the amendment as it was submitted by and you all should have it. I said it, you should have gotten it before, but I sent it out. Yeah, because Gene sent it to the whole board quite some time ago. But I can read it, but all the board members should have it. And I'll be reading what was submitted. It would be an article, for yet to be determined which article it would be. Memorial Garden Team and Memorial Garden Fund. And this is where would have to do some reformatting, and that's why I recommended that it be reformatted. But it says, Section 1, the board shall assure that there will be a Memorial Garden team. The team will be composed of 3 to 5 self-selected church members. The team shall keep, in collaboration with the bookkeeper, the financial records for members and friends of UUCS who use the garden, hold the records of how a patron's name should appear, facilitate the engraving of names on the columns, and manage the maintenance of the garden, authorize the disbursement of funds from the Memorial Garden Fund, which is held in trust by the church, establish the policies for the use of the garden. And that's the content we've got, how we would say section 1, 2, 3, or 4, or something like that. That would have to be worked out. But
Yeah,
that's,
I had one quick comment. It said self-selected. I think she really means volunteer. And there's if the board thought a person was inappropriate to be on that team, they should have the right to.
Dick, I think that this gets to Gene's concerns, right? If we start discussing
Right.
agreement or disagreement with the content,
Well,
it would be inappropriate for the board to have that. I think it's inappropriate for the board to have that discussion.
Well, I guess
that would have to take place during the annual meeting.
I'm thinking, but it was said earlier that the board can suggest changes to the wording to make sure it, and that's just all I was saying.
I mean, yeah, that's not necessarily a violation of. I mean, I think
Well,
there
I
would
think
there definitely be some debate about that and some other things.
Well,
in it,
yeah,
but that would
anything
be-
in if you looked at our bylaws, there's probably no provision for self-selection on anything, but it usually assumes volunteers.
Yes, but if the congregation were to vote on it as it is, then there would be something in the bylaw about self-selection. So
Right.
I'm just saying I don't think we should debate the merits of it here because
Right.
that's not the board's responsibility, and that to me feels like it would be I think that's Gene's concern, right? That the board should not be discussing whether or not we agree with it or not as written, just whether or not it violates any of the rules. And if not, then the board would vote to put it on its agenda.
Mhm.
That's my interpretation. What do you think, Tom?
Well, that would be one interpretation. I would say the other interpretation would be that we wouldn't be voting to say yes or no on the whole concept, but to make the wording more consistent with some other similar wording in the document, and that sort of thing. But there's supposed to be an opportunity for somebody, either the board or a designated person or persons, to examine for continuity and work with the persons proposing the amendment in an effort to maintain consistency and continuity.
Yeah,
But
that's what I'm thinking.
here's my other question about that process or that interpretation of it. We have to have it in by 6 weeks, right? And also, it has to maintain at least 10 member sponsors, right? So if we change it, then my interpretation would be is those 10 sponsors would have to re-sign it because it would not be the same proposal or the same amendment that they originally proposed.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable at all, and that could easily be done. If somebody, the board persons, or designated persons would work with it, get something that's in proper order and sections and that sort of thing, and then have that re-verified by the group that submitted it, then it could be, I would think that we're fine, it could be on the agenda.
Yeah,
But the board would still have to have the final version within 6 weeks, right?
Mm,
Mm,
I
That,
don't think so. No.
You see that's where
I
that's where
don't,
the problem comes in. Maybe I'm being too legalistic at it. Maybe the board could just sort of trust, okay, we'll put our team on it, and whatever you guys come up with, we pre-approve. But I mean, again, the requirement is that what we're going to present to the congregation has to have been filtered through the board.
Can
well,
those changes be made during the meeting as amendments?
They can, yeah.
well, it could always be amended in the meeting, but I'm just looking at the wording. A member may propose an amendment only if the proposed amendment's been previously submitted to the board 6 weeks prior to the meeting date, which it has been. And then the next part is the 6 weeks is for the purpose of the board or board designated persons to examine the proposed amendment for continuity and as needed, work with the persons proposing the amendment in an effort to maintain consistency and continuity.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I
So,
think that means the 6 weeks only applies to the initial submission.
That's the
But,
way.
but I think Todd is right that once the wording is realigned and whatnot, presumably you'd want the endorsers to say, "Oh yeah, fine, let's go with it." I mean, that should be easy to get too.
And we do have a board meeting in May that is 16 or 17 days before the official notice for the meeting has to go out, 14 days before the June 14th annual meeting. So an adjusted wording by a subcommittee of the board working with Gene or the others could work out some wording. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
yeah.
As long as it's, within a month or the deadline for presenting it to the congregation.
Mhm.
Yeah, the notice has to go out 14 days before, and the meeting is June 14th. So the last day of May is that day at our meeting in May is about 2 or 3 days before that. So we could have the final version that the board could look at in the May meeting and then hit the agenda going out with the notice.
Excuse me.
Hmm.
Could you repeat what your final decision was on this question?
And I think we're still deliberating, aren't we? Have we agreed on a plan?
well, I
think
agree
so.
with Todd that we shouldn't be changing what's currently there because we don't want to contact 10 people again to have them go along with it. And we can amend this at the meeting if people don't agree with it.
Well, Linda, the problem is it has no consistency with regard to being a section 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's just a totally disorganized statement.
Okay, so but that doesn't have to be anything that we care about, right? I mean, if you want to do that, as long as the wording is correct or the way that we put it in, then that should be okay, right?
I assume that you all would agree with that.
Okay, so that's the answer.
But you say it has no consistency as to where you put it. Is that something the board will make that decision today where it will go? If you decide that it's fine the way it's written.
No, so I think what I heard is that in order to figure out where it's going to go in the bylaw, what section it would be, how it would be formatted within the bylaw without changing the wording.
Yeah.
Tom and probably someone else from the board would work that out.
Okay.
And then they go back to you guys and say, "Is this work for you? Still work for you?" Then they would come to the May board meeting, which gives us plenty of time. You know, you having said, "Yeah, this is still the same amendment we signed, we agreed to." Then the board in the May meeting would say, "Okay, let's put it on the agenda."
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's what I heard. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, then do we need a vote to approve it like provisionally based on and authorize moving ahead with consistency changes as needed? Something like
I
that?
think you can just, if nobody disagrees with what you just said, I think we can just do that, and then the vote would come in May.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think all the board needs to do now is designate whoever's going to be doing this work, Tom and whoever else.
Right. Jean has her hand up, I notice.
Well, if you need it.
Okay, so once the board has approved the
But they
the
have
way
to-
this is said and everything,
Okay.
then why is the board voting whether it should go to the annual meeting or not?
Gene, get off.
Is that in the bylaws?
Let me just respond the
If
best
not-
I can. Your opinion is noticed and listened to, but the board makes a decision of how it's going to do it. Is that clear? Everybody agree with that?
Yes, how it's going to do it, but if you're saying they will vote whether or not this amendment will be included in the annual meeting,
Yes.
and I'm saying the board should not vote on that.
Well, your comments are heard.
Thank you. So what are you going to do?
Ignore it.
They're gonna follow the rules.
Well, the board has to
Read me
vote
the
on it.
rule. Read me the rule that
They said
says,
Gene.
no.
Yes, I did.
And then the board has to vote to schedule and put it on the ballot. That's all it has to do. And otherwise it doesn't get on the ballot. Isn't it? Without board approval. It's not an endorsement or non-endorsement. It's just saying, yeah, it meets all the requirements. It's consistent. We're going to
Yeah.
put it on the ballot. So that
all.
the May meeting, the board will presumably vote to put it on the ballot. That's all.
And I think we should move on because this
Yes, you
has been
should.
discussed. It's been discussed. And so thanks, Gene.
I'm going to restate what I said before, and if there are no objections, we will move ahead. So my statement is that we have accepted the Memorial Garden Amendment with 10 valid signatures. It will be adjusted as necessary to be in compliance with other bylaws. And it will be back at the May meeting for a board vote to be included on the general meeting agenda. Any objections? Seeing none, we will move ahead.
Mhm.
How about who's going to do that?
How about you and me, Tom?
I love that.
Okay.
It sounds like a good cup of coffee somewhere.
Okay. Next item is the discussion of the AI summary of policy governance boards. And Nancy, thank you for sending that out again to us today, so we didn't have to dig too deep in our mailboxes.
Could
I
I
would
suggest
we-
could I suggest we deal with this ops team appointment, which should be quick, and
Yeah.
then go
Yeah.
there.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have window washers.
Laura Gusdorf, someone just needs to make a motion that the board formally appoint Laura Gusdorf to the operations team, and then second that and discuss it if necessary. And I can't make that motion because I'm not a voting member, but that would be my request.
I move that Laura Gustorf be appointed by the board for one of the member vacancies on the operations team.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll take Doug's second to that motion. All in favor?
Can we have some discussion first?
Oh, discussion, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Todd, are they going to be able to arrange transportation for her for those meetings?
Those take place on Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is she able to do Zoom because unless I got the right
I'm sure she'll be able to work it out. She obviously she's lost her vision.
Yeah.
Not her mind. So I think she will be able to work that out. She'll probably need some help getting on or something.
just wanted to.
She seemed confident that that's
Great.
not a major hurdle.
Great. Wow.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a new member of the operations team.
Good.
And then to our AI summary, Nancy.
So when I first was asked to join the board, I received the book Governance and Ministry, Rethinking Board Leadership. And it was summertime and I didn't get to it. And so I thought, well, what better way to use AI than to get a summary of the book? And I think, well, I know I'm an old board member who's used to a working board, and so is Tom. I don't know if others of you are, but I wanted to just start with a document we're all supposed to have in our supplies that we got when we started. And there's a document called About Policy Governance that you all should have received. And here is a short summary that I didn't send to you, but I can certainly copy and put it into an email. A policy governance board has 4 essential tasks. Monitor our end statements. Are we who we say we are? A, unlike a mission or vision, end statements define who we are supposed to be in this moment. The question is, are we? Or do we need some work? The board is the organization's visioning body and should oversee things like strategic planning, but it must seek input for such planning from its stakeholders. So we're going to be taking care of that move very shortly. Maintaining connections with its stakeholders. It is not possible for a small handful of trustees to represent the collective will of its stakeholders, i.e. church members, employees, ministers, friends, community, etc. Therefore, a major board responsibility is relational, getting a feel for where the stakeholders are at and what they need. And finally, establish and clarify policies. So here's an easy, what a policy governance board meeting generally looks like. And I can tell you ours don't look like this. Here's an example. After routine business, i.e. confirmation of quorum, approval of minutes, you might watch a brief YouTube video on church leadership or policy governance or an issue important to your stakeholders, and then take time to discuss it. You then consider an issue or a question that has arisen by consulting your policies. If there isn't a policy, you might begin working on one. If there is one, but it doesn't quite address the situation, you work to clarify it. If it's adequate, the issue is resolved. The very first question any policy governance board should ask is this matter our responsibility? If not, pass it on to whomever it belongs to. You may invite particular stakeholders, teams, committees, or someone from the wider community to come and share what they are doing. I hope you had a good time and adjourn. That's what it says. And then it goes into policy. So you might check your board file that you got and see if you have that document, or if you want me to copy it and send it out in an email, I can do that as well to everybody to make sure that we have a better understanding of what we should be doing. So then in this document from AI, very simply, the core idea is this book argues that healthy congregations require a clear distinction and strong partnership between governance, which is the board, and ministry, which is the staff and volunteers. When these roles are confused, churches become inefficient, conflict-prone, and mission-drifted. So the ministry, that is the staff and teams, handle the day-to-day operations and the program execution. They bring the mission to life. The board focuses on mission, vision, values, and policy, ensures accountability, financial health, and long-term direction. And I'm just going to keep it even briefer. Governance is both an art and a structure. Governance isn't just technical, it's spiritual and cultural. Structures should reflect the congregation's values and sense of the sacred. And I think it would be important for us to revisit our end statements and see if those should change or have changed. And I don't believe we've looked at our end statements this year since I've been on the board. So anyway, I wanted to bring it into discussion so we could talk about that and how we might see some changes so that we're more of a policy governance board than a working board.
I wish I knew about that before I agreed to be member of the board.
You're doing a great job, Lupa.
No, not at all.
Yes, you are. You led the way with the next steps in the strategic plan. So don't say you're not. Tom?
For one thing, I use AI, but I am always suspicious of it. So I'm a little bit suspicious of exactly what comes back at us from AI. But one of the things that occurs to me when I read over that and looked at this is one of the things that we uniquely have is a shared ministry team. And when I'm looking at the bylaw right now that defines what the shared ministry team is supposed to do, a lot of what could come to the board by way of feedback from the congregation could come through the shared ministry team, which would put us more in a position of considering information that comes to us rather than us going out and seeking it. For instance, here we are doing the survey and the questionnaire for the strategic plan, and it's, with the exception of James Johnson, we're all board members, and maybe that's what you're getting at. And if that's what, and that's what I think we're getting at, and that tells me we don't have enough people to do some of the tasks that need to be done in order for us to just be a policy governance body. And that's where I'm at with this dilemma.
Just remember, Sue Stieritz is also a member, and she's not a board member.
True.
And we had more people signed up from the congregation who then said they couldn't do it.
Todd, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, I have read Carver's book, and I am fully aware of what policy governance is supposed to look like. I don't think that this is altogether different than what I have tried to communicate to every board I've been on or been part of since I've been here each year. You know, and including the same points about what a policy governance board should be doing. And I think the board should just do it. And I think exactly the way that ended said, you know, this is what a board meeting should look like. Have fun, you know, do this and then go. I hope you had a good time. You know, I think we should try that. We should commit to that. For a policy board looking like a policy board. For one thing, that's what our bylaws require. We're a policy governance church. And so one of the things the shared ministry team has talked about around this and is actually working on is creating a policy governance team that would work more consistently to educate the congregation and the board as needed about policy governance, and even have a member of that team attend board meetings to sort of help, hey, we're getting away from the board roles according to our policy governance process, just to kind of help put that back in. But I would actually like to go even further than that, and rather than me do the training each year, which obviously I'm terrible at, that the board take responsibility for that, whether it's designating it to a group like the shared ministry team's putting together, or, you know, having a board member that is designated to be part of that team or liaison with that team, and that the board creates that culture and starts perpetuating. Because I think you're absolutely right. You know, or as you read it anyway, Nancy, that, you know, when we're not doing that, when the leadership roles, when how leadership is done gets mixed up, it leaves us in situations of anxiety, which then creates the strife that it was talking about. I think the congregation would be much healthier if we truly acted and functioned as a policy governance board, particularly as you outlined it today.
Tom.
Well, as maybe to get a little bit more specific, because we're wandering around in a kind of a big umbrella area. If we looked at today's agenda, what in that agenda is inconsistent with policy governance?
I think the fact that it's just an agenda that is going through business meetings and making situational decisions about how the church is going to be run, rather than the broad pictures. Now, you know, obviously dealing with the annual meeting and the long-term strategies, which are what bylaw amendments, those sort of things are. But, you know, the board itself should be visioning, coming up with those things in agreement. You know, when you're looking at the policies, it's kind of like this is the real benefit of it for those who are wondering, well, why should we do this weird thing? What's so special about it? I like to contrast it with situational governance, right? That's an easier term to grasp, right? So if you're a board that anytime somebody brings a situation to you, or there's a problem that comes up, or somebody thinks there's a problem, or somebody has a concern, they bring it up, and the board says, "Okay, let's talk about this in our collective wisdom, and let's make a decision." And you vote on it, and the decision's made. That's very situational. It's not well thought out. It's not necessarily consistent. It's just a few people talking about it and brainstorming and coming up with a solution. The problem with that is someone down the road may come with a similar problem, similar question, and the response is very different because it's a situational response. When you start talking about governing by policy, and you've heard me say this before, right? We look at the corrals. What's the corral? Well, the largest corral, according to policy governance, would be your stakeholders, which includes certainly our voting members, our congregational members. I would say our larger community, our mission is also part of that. But the biggest corral, the biggest circle, is at least our congregation, which governs through bylaws and through electing officers. That's how and then within that we have the bylaws, right? And those who are responsible for their various areas. Within that we have policy, and that policy should be very broad and allows people to operate and function, making their own decisions within those policies. So if we don't have particularly a robust policy governance where the board is looking at our policies routinely and asking the very questions Nancy asked, are these adequate? Do we understand what this means? Does it need to be clarified? Does it need to be changed? Do we need to get rid of it and put another policy in? If you're not doing that on an ongoing basis, then the church is really left in a place where it doesn't have a strong policy system to help create that corral in which everybody is then entrusted to function within those limitations. So I think what I would rather see is exactly the board coming in and saying, okay, let's have a team come to our board meeting this time around, and let's just find out what they're doing. That's having connections with your stakeholders, right? That's being aware of what's going on in the church. That's your thumb on the pulse. And you say, hey, let's look at a policy out of our policy book. Does this make sense to everybody? Let's just discuss it. We want to change it? Because that's also the beauty of policies. The board can change the policies anytime you want. You don't have to have an amendment. You don't have to go before the congregation. You don't have to wait for an annual meeting, which is why it's better to have, very, very broad but brief bylaws and then govern through policies that you can adjust and adapt as necessary. And then I think, the idea of pulling up a YouTube video on leadership or on some other issue, a social justice issue, something that would be edifying. And then if there is no absolute business that needs to be done, obviously you're going to have bylaw, you're going to have, you have to prepare for, updates on the strategic plan or discussions about the strategic plan, because ultimately you're the ones responsible for the broader vision of the church as part of your policy governance work. But those are the issues you should be dealing with. And I think after you have those 3 to 4 issues in a board meeting, or those 3 or 4 events or items, you do exactly what it says. I hope you had fun. I hope you walked away feeling good. You were with some good, nice people, and you learned something valuable, and you did something valuable for the congregation that's going to last for a long time.
Yeah, back to you, Tom.
Well, I think I saw Doug's hand go up before mine went up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doug.
Yeah, so my thoughts about this are okay. Specifically, today we have an agenda that Cindy and Nancy and a third party, I don't know who was there, created, and that's what is guiding what we're doing today. Today being a typical meeting. So I'd like to hear what Cindy and Nancy in particular think about what's being discussed here. How do you feel about the possibility of moving to where what is created the week before a board meeting, how that can change so that we are doing what Todd is pointing out that we should be doing?
As well as John Carver.
Yeah, yeah. So I need to hear from Cindy and Nancy. I think to begin to get a grasp on how this happens in real life, as opposed to conceptually.
That's a really good question, Doug. And this is nobody's fault. It's just, I think, we didn't have a good understanding of what policy governance is. I've been on the board 2 other times, and it was a working board. It was the board literally did the work that the excuse me, the ops team and other teams are doing now. So it's nobody's fault. It's just, can we consider this as a way to move? I looked at the end statements, and like I say, maybe we need to start by looking at the end statements. Just dip our toes in. I know we have a lot of business that has to be handled with regard to the annual meeting, but let's get our feet wet. Cindy, your thoughts?
I've been looking over the end statements out of the corner of my eye as we've had this discussion, and they seem very visionary, something that we definitely want to aspire to and incorporate into our deliberations. My only worry is like losing some of the nuts and bolts as we do them now that kind of hold things together. And I don't know if we let some of that stuff go, will there be problems?
Todd?
Yeah, I would say 2 things. I wonder if some of it is nuts and bolts versus getting reports. If you're worried about nuts and bolts, who's responsible for tightening those nuts? And have that team come and learn from that team so that you feel assured that things are happening the way they should, right? So that's one way to look at it. I would say about the end statements, though, if they are something to aspire to, if they're visionary, they absolutely need to be thrown out and gotten rid of. Because our end statements are supposed to be a mirror of who we say we are right now. Right. This is the measuring stick by which the board determines, are we functioning the way we're supposed to function, because our end statements say this is who we are. This is not who we look like we are. This may look like who we want to be, but if we're not there, we need to throw those out, and we need to come up with the statements that are viable, possible, and should reflect who we are supposed to be. And that then becomes the yardstick by which the board holds us and everybody else, itself included, up throughout the year, throughout your work as a board.
Todd, do I understand correctly that the board important role is to adapt to a new reality, because the reality is different now than it was 5 or 7 years ago?
You mean the way we do board business, Luba?
Yes.
Well, yes. I mean, but I think the adaptation again becomes relative to those end statements, right? You might look at the end statements and say, is this who we are anymore, or is this who we need to be? Do we need to be something else in light of the situation we're in? Those are wonderful conversations that the board should be having. They're broad, they're big, nobody's putting their fingers on a button or writing a law and saying this is what we expect of everybody else. So sometimes it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, but you're doing the most important thing.
Cindy, I was just curious, what to you are the nuts and bolts?
I think things like hearing the treasurer's report, the nominating team report, talking about the generosity campaign, things like that.
And I had one thought. A goal could be to say maybe every other board meeting, put on the agenda a particular area of policy we just want to talk about, and maybe get a report from, if there's some group working on that area, like the ops team, or maybe it's a social justice team or endowment team. I think when I've been on the board, sometimes we get little bits here and there, but usually only in the context of some particular issue. But maybe if every other board meeting you actually had some issue you could talk about 10 minutes, 15 minutes or something in sort of broad terms, how things have gone, how things might, what issues might come up, any ideas, and try to get some people in that meeting who have some thoughts on it to help lead it, not just sort of out of nothing. If you have an agenda item, who in the congregation or on this or that team has some thoughts or might want to be involved in some discussion or whatever.
Todd, do you still have your hand up, or is
Yeah,
that
I would just say, Cindy mentioned in the nuts and bolts, two of the things you mentioned had to deal with fiscal responsibility, which, if you remember what Nancy said about the very narrow range of responsibilities of a policy governance board, that is part of it. Mm-hmm. So having those reports is viable. Do you have to have them every month? Or do you have to have a quarterly report? Is there another way to do that without necessarily having to have it on the sort of say, what did we do last month? Let's do that again, and check every box every month, right? You can think outside of the box, so to speak. And I think, I agree with Dick, but I don't think this should be tepid. I think you've got a map. I've tried to explain it at the start of every year. Nancy has come up with a really great synopsis of this. She's said many of the same things that Carver says. I think you should go all in and just sort of. And the hardest thing is to get out of the rut, right, out of the pattern that we've been in forever, and just try a new pattern for a couple times. Just be radical. Now, of course, we have an annual meeting coming up. That is part of the board's responsibility, I think, as the visionary. So, you're going to have more details to deal with between now and June. So I wouldn't necessarily say that you throw the baby out with the bathwater at this point, but at least commit to doing some of it. And by the start of next year, the new board, I think, we just completely rewrite the script.
Tom, yes.
Yeah, court. Let me see. The end statement. They're at the beginning of our policy and procedures manual. And in one of the drafts of the survey that I had put forth, I had stated both the mission statement and kind of a yes or no, kind of a way to try to get the congregation's response to that, whether that was acceptable or needed changing. And I also had in there the end statements asking kind of the same question: is this who we are and where we're at? And that was probably considered an open-ended question and not suitable for analysis by a survey monkey or breeze. But the second section of the bylaw that has to do with the board says the board shall articulate the vision of the congregation in the ends statements set forth in the policy and procedures, and the end statements shall be reviewed and or revised periodically with participation of the congregation. Well, that hasn't occurred in my memory, which goes back quite a darn long ways. So we haven't been living up to that particular part of seeing whether these statements that were written, who knows, 10, 12, 15 years ago are relevant today. So that's a really valid comment that we should be looking at those again. And maybe this questionnaire involving strategic planning is the place to do it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a separate exercise. And then as far as the suggestion, I really like that idea of having a team periodically come in and just have a conversation with the board where it's open to the rest of the congregation, as is this particular example of a board meeting. So yeah, there are some adjustments that could be made. We still have to deal with some nuts and bolts. But I looked at the treasurer's description and the finance, and it's not a monthly report, and we have gotten in that rut. And I may have been the one to get us there because that was pretty routine when I was the president last year, following along with what was going on before. So there are a couple of ruts that we've been in for a while.
Well, I think it is exciting to think that we would have a different approach that's more open and exploratory. It could be very fruitful.
And it could be very scary, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's unknown territory. I don't know whether it's scary, but it's somewhat unknown territory.
That can be scary.
Can be. Yeah.
One thought I have is that we could actually give priority to this visioning policy government's approach and do it first on the agenda or near the top of the agenda, and leave the routine items to the bottom to where they have to happen quickly. And if anybody seems to be running over time, they're asked to quit, and because we have to move on and end the meeting on time.
I like that.
We need the hook, right? The big hook.
The hook. And we might even need a hooker.
Yeah, and also I think the question that Nancy brought up, is the first thing that any board should consider, particularly those putting together the agenda, but even savvy board members, if there's something that gets on the agenda, you notice, is that question, is this our responsibility? And if not, whose responsibility is it? Right. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we've asked that question at times, and I recall, asking that and then saying, yeah, but where is that body we want to assign that responsibility to? And the body's not it's not populated. So we have a problem with volunteers, and we keep addressing this over and over and over again. How do we get people on these various teams and committees? So we have some place to assign a topic to. So it's
that's where I would say we would have to first of all begin. Is the discussion of assigning anything to somebody part of the board's responsibility to begin with? Right. And I'm not saying it's not, but is there what I would call minutia that comes up about an issue that is not necessarily a major issue, and there is no team to deal with it because it's not been an issue before, and say that's nothing for us to worry about.
Oh, I had done that at Lynn Janesian's encouragement. She's the one who made me sensitive to it as president. And just because the board never heard that I said, that's not our responsibility, go see that person or that team. I did that probably a half a dozen or more times, but because the board doesn't know that it happened, then they get the impression that the only thing we're dealing with is minutia, not knowing the president shunning something off to the side. So, it isn't all as obvious as it may seem.
No. Oh, Nancy, you're muted.
Yep, I just unmuted. I've been doing this kind of Zoom meeting for how many years and I still mute. So this other document that everybody should have looks like this. And the second page has that circle thing that Todd was talking about. Do you want me to copy it or ask Rebecca to get it out to everybody? It is an easy read. I see Kathy saying yes, she'd like to see it.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, I'm looking through my old folder and I don't see it in my old folder, and it should be, of course, each new board member is going to get a new folder. So that'll have to be populated appropriately, but I looked through my folder and I ain't seeing it, babe.
I will copy it and put it into a email tomorrow sometime and get it out to everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
Amongst all the stuff that you do, Nancy.
I'm crazy. I'm going to Mexico though on Mother's Day, and I'm not coming back for 10 days, and I'm not answering email.
Yay.
That's it.
You could put your phone in a big glass of tequila and leave it there for 10 days.
And again, I didn't bring this up today because we were doing something wrong. We were doing the best we could. And it's like, okay, after I read that AI, I went, maybe we need to entertain some new ways. So,
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thanks for bringing that to us, Nancy.
yep.
Yes.
Great treatment of sensitivity and reminding.
Yeah,
So is it wine time?
I believe it is. By my clock, it is.
I have an appointment with a Mexican restaurant, a large margarita.
Did you have anything else, Cindy?
Well, all we have is the not to be forgotten ops team's membership, and that has been taken care of.
Well, I disagree. I think we could use one more person on the ops team
Yes.
because there is a policy here that says something about 3 or 4 church members.
Mm-hmm.
The bylaw says the same thing, 2 to 4 members.
So
Technically, it's met. It's 2 to 4.
okay.
3 would be great, but now we have some time. We're no longer out of compliance with our bylaws. So
Yeah.
it's just time to surface somebody that would be,
Yeah.
you know, it requires a certain person, you know, there's a very close group that needs to be a lot of cooperation, and sometimes we need somebody with a strong back. That's helpful too. At least one person.
Yeah.
Well, if you stumble across anybody, any of us, we'll throw it Todd's way, see if it will fit in with the team.
Yeah. Thank you.
And no, you can't have Kathy. We need her on the board.
Yeah. You already got the good ones, Jim and Kathy. So
You know, as far as throwing out names, James Johnson has been a constant participant in this strategic plan team and is getting to know quite a bit about the church. I don't know whether anybody approached him or not, but I've had some personal exchanges with him, and I'm very pleased.
good to know.
All right, folks. If we have nothing further, we'll go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 5:23. Thank you all for being here, especially thank you to Jim and Kathy.
Yeah.
Cindy.
And sleep in tomorrow, Doug.
Yeah.
Or sleep in today, as it were.
Yeah.
This
Good to see
Sunday,
you all.
this Sunday is the flower celebration. I strongly encourage you to attend.
Yeah.
Now I got to find the lead door.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I can't figure out how to get out of here.